It worked.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yay, we're here. All right,
We're
let's.
here. We have a special guest today, Mr. Steve Greenblatt, all the way from the East Coast. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks for having me. Glad to see you guys.
Yay.
Thanks for being here, Steve. And on short notice, I think we were juggling schedules around at the last minute. We're like, no, we're doing it.
Hey, I'm always available for you.
I really appreciate
Thank
it. So,
you.
why don't you introduce yourselves to our viewers? Take a minute, tell us a little bit about control concepts.
Sure. So for those that don't know me, Steve Greenblatt, I've been actually in the industry 25 plus years, and it's scary to say at this point. And I own a company that is categorized as an independent programming company, where and that's where we have our roots. And what we did initially was do control system programming and work with integrators. And over the years, we've evolved a bit to become more of a software development company. And not that we don't do the control programming, but we also look to see how we can bring in modern programming languages and expand the horizons and capabilities of AV systems. And one of the areas that we've been focusing on is working with manufacturers and doing module and driver development to help them make their products easier for their programmers to work with, and also lean into the idea that systems are becoming simpler and more people are using a configuration approach rather than all of the complex programming. And it keeps us doing the stuff that we do really well, and which is the heavy lifting of knowing how to communicate with devices. So that's kind of where we are in a nutshell. And we've been in business 23 plus years.
Nice. It seems like automation is becoming more and more important. It's always been important to me because as someone who wants people to be productive, when I'm helping design a meeting room for people, I don't want people to have to be experts at how to use the meeting room. I want them, if they're the sales team, I want them to get in there and do sales. So having all this stuff programmed behind the scenes so things just work has always been important to me. But now it's more important because we're not allowed to touch anything. I mean,
Right.
is that become a big part of? Are you having to program things to be voice activated, or am I not yet understanding exactly what you do? If I'm off,
There's a lot of talk about that, and I think that that's still evolving. And I think that there's always that balance of control and automation, and the control being you press a function and that specific function happens, whereas automation involves more things happening for you, and more I guess artificial intelligence, if you would put it into that category, but pre-planned activities, and doing things based on different conditions. So there's definitely more talk about that now, and I think that the first step to that is that we're going to see more use of mobile devices, and how the user interface is heading more toward the idea of using HTML5 being more mainstream, and being able to use your device instead of the dedicated touch screen in the room, which allows a little bit more of a no touch, or a personalized touching area, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me. It feels like, and it's something that we talk about a lot in these sort of podcasts. It just comes up when we talk about, voice control is still new. So I'm just over here. Everybody loves their phone. Everybody loves their phone. Don't take my phone away from me, right? And I want to do everything on my phone. And if, oh my goodness, I can go into my office and control everything in the office, especially the stuff that other people are touching, with this. Yes, please make it happen. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, when I talk about this on podcasts, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that's happening because it's sexy and it's fun and we like the idea." Or are we there yet? Are you actually doing this? Is this happening? Because well, just tell me yes.
So for us, I'd like to be able to say yes, but I think we're in a transition stage. I think the industry is, because I think that we have to work through the projects that were in the queue prior to COVID. But I
Right.
think it's good that we're starting to think about how can technology be. Obviously, technology is what's making people be able to work more remotely and be able to stay in touch and communicate. I think that that right now our industry probably should be getting a lot more recognition than it has been getting, because we've been doing all this stuff for a really long time. And without it, how would business be conducting itself, if you think about it?
Well, and I think there's a lot of other industries that are coming in and kind of stealing some of that thunder. I was just having a conversation with a real estate or a property manager for a big commercial building, and I mean they're investing a lot of money into exactly what you guys are talking about, just the whole touchless, using your cell phone to do everything. You know, you use your cell phone to open the garage door to the building, use your cell phone to open the door to get into the office, use your cell phone to get into a conference room. I mean, you use it for everything. And like
It's my
you said,
baby.
Steve, we've been right. We've been doing this for a long time, and now other companies are going, oh, we can do that too. Right.
Yeah.
Do you think the big control companies are kind of scared about using the cell phones, or are they adapting too?
Yeah, if I just want to jump in for a second. First of all, I just want to say hi to Tom and James in chat. We love it when we have people in chat. If you have anything you want to ask, please. Let's give a yay for our friends in chat. Please jump in and ask if you have any questions. And I just want to just add on to what Kelly said, and actually what Steve said and Kelly said. Our industry does deserve a pat on the back for a lot of things. First of all, we were moving in all these directions before the pandemic hit. We were looking for touchless. We were looking for voice activation. We were starting to talk about this kind of stuff already. So when it hit, we're already moving. And yes, the industry is doing well, which feels kind of weird when the whole world is not doing well, but we're helping. And it's a very positive time to be in the video industry. Hey, Dominion, welcome to the chat. All right, I'm sorry. Let me let you continue on where we were, Steve.
So I guess I was just responding to what Kelly asked about. Are the control manufacturers feeling threatened, or is this a good thing? And I think that they understand that it's coming, and I don't necessarily know right now that they're opposed to us using more mainstream devices. I think that this move probably started to show itself when the iPad came out, and that's one of the things everybody thought is the proprietary touchscreen dead, and there's still plenty of applications where the proprietary touchscreen is still very valuable. But I think having the ability to be able to take a UI, and I think we start to look at things more from a website perspective, and you can create more responsive designs so that you can have something work on and work appropriately and for different size UIs and different size devices. So it's probably going to be augmenting the standard control, and maybe there'll be times where it becomes a primary, but having the ability to do stuff on a secondary panel will be very helpful. But I think the big shift is looking at using a HTML5, which is a solution that is a lot more mainstream and works in a lot of different places and is very easily transferable.
Rock on.
So, can we get into like some specifics of? I feel like we're talking in generalities, but what's really going to be different. So we get back to the office, and then let's say we get all this stuff figured out and we got everything programmed. In my day to day, and we're still trying to figure this out. Is it just going to be like everyone's still going to go to work, but just half as often? So I'll go in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Some people go in Tuesday and Thursday. We'll still use the same spaces, but we'll spread out more, and everything will just have to be programmed so we don't touch anything.
So, I mean, from my perspective, I think that it's going to be a very interesting transition, and I think it's going to be very localized too. I'm in the Northeast, and we're handling. We're in a different situation or a different comfort level or a different, I guess, understanding of where things are at versus other areas too. So I think it's going to be a transition period, and it may bring out new ideas too, where we start to think about how can we use our spaces differently. I think that there's going to be a lot more multi-purpose spaces too. That they're, instead of having dedicated rooms for things, the ability to use something for an office one day and use it for a town hall meeting maybe another day, or just a video conference and a third day. That's one of the predictions, or at least what I see. Being able to leverage your spaces as much as possible.
That's
Very
smart.
flexible and
Better use of our spaces instead of right. And with all of everything becoming more flexible, all of our gear, all of our equipment, we can use the same camera for streaming that we use for video conferencing. Our studio room can be our meeting room. We could just configure it differently and just schedule it so we don't have too many people in it all at once.
yeah, like my kitchen is my office.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. my kitten's playroom is my office. When it comes to programming, and this is it's a naive question, but hey, maybe some people of our viewers are as naive as me. It always seems like programmers can do anything. Like I have some friends who program as a hobby, and I told them it'd be fun for my guitar stream if they can code a game where people in the chat type in a number, and if I get that many notes right in a row, they win. And a weekend later, a friend of mine said, "Here you go. It's in Python." And I'm like, I was kidding. That's not actually possible. And it's just all possible. Is a lot of what you do come from customer request? Hey, we need you to program our room to make this happen and that happen, or does it come from you got a design team in the back that says this is what we should be working on now?
That's a good question.
It's definitely driven by clients, but it's our responsibility to help clients understand what's going to work best for them. And as a company that works in our category as being an independent programmer, we get exposed to a lot of different things. So we're exposed to the way different clients work, and different integrators work, and different consultants work, and different gear, because we don't have any control over what gets specified. So we really have to be able to be flexible and adaptable. But what's nice about that is that we accumulate a huge knowledge base, so that we know what works and what doesn't work, and we're able to shed light and be able to say that when we've worked with a client like you, this has worked well for them. What do you think of it? But it has to be a collaborative process. One of the things that we're trying to do too is listen a lot more. So you want to hear what it is, what are the challenges that people are dealing with, what are the things that what is the reason for putting in the system or having it being custom controlled or custom programmed. And some of that reason is not only for the users to create simplicity, but also for the people that support the systems to have simplicity and have control and power over being able to make adjustments on their own. And we have some solutions for that. And I think that that's one of the key elements these days, that people don't want to pay a lot of money to make small changes. So we try to build in some back-end controls to be able to allow a technology manager, because they're a lot more skilled and a lot more invested in the industry than they once were, and they understand this stuff, and giving them these abilities, I think, is going to go a long way to making the systems a lot more flexible and usable for them.
And it really resonates with me, because that mentality described, that's exactly just the way all my programmer friends act with me. It's something in the mind of a programmer. They'll make something, a little hobby custom for me, a little Python script over the weekend. And then they'll say, "Do you have any feedback?" And I'll go, "Thank you so much. Let me buy you a beer or something. I'm so happy with it." And they'll go, No, does anything not work for you? Is there anything that other users might want to change? I'm like, this is just, no one else is using this. It's just for me. They're like, "You don't understand. I'm a programmer. Give me feedback.
How can we make it better?
I need to make it better."
Yeah.
Cool though.
But what you wind up is with people who think you can literally do anything. But I really feel like you guys can. The way it works with me is I'll say, "Hey, here's a recent idea I had on my Twitch stream. On Twitch, you have an account, like on YouTube. You have an account. You have your little icon. I want to make it so I could push a button and someone from chat, I can make their icon pop up on the screen here. I wanted to go into the Twitch server somehow and locate that person's icon and get the graphic image and put it up. So I asked my programmer friend, and he looked into it, and he explained to me why it's totally impossible, how the APIs don't allow it, and it just cannot be done, and there's no way to do it, and there's no way around it, and here's the 3 ways you would try to go around it, and here's why all 3 of them don't work. I said, okay, that's cool. Thanks for looking into it. And 2 weeks later, he said, here you go.
So he found a workaround, or he found the API that he needed, or the
I
command?
don't understand it. But I showed it to my other programmer friend, and my second programmer friend, who's a genius, said, your friend's a genius.
Wow.
That's
I'll show it to
awesome.
you. I'll show it to you offline. You'll understand it. But so my experience with programmers is literally, and I know they get mad when you say this, but oh, it's software. You could do anything in software. You really can.
So that's always been a blessing and a curse, right? In the AV world, one of the things that some designers would tend to think that you can fix it in programming, so I don't have to be as responsible, or I don't have to be going to great lengths to figure things out, because programming is going to be my buffer. But we also have to understand too that when you cook your programming, as you go, you don't end up coming out with the best product, as though when you figure out this is what I'm going to be doing from the beginning, and this is my game plan, and these are my parameters and my scope, you get much better results. So there's a trade-off there.
Yeah, I mean, if you build it as you go, I mean, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? It started to, it didn't, people think over time it started to tip. It was starting to tip as they built it, and it's bent in the middle because of it. So sometimes if you try to correct as you're going, you need a plan when you start sometimes.
So are you
Absolutely.
usually brought in at the end, Steve, or do you work with folks from the beginning, or is it all over the place?
It's relative to what you could consider the beginning or the end. I think we
Fair
come
enough.
at the beginning of the end, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
I think we could always be brought in a lot earlier. I mean, so if you think about it, and I try to tell people this, why not talk about the functionality of your system and scope out your programming before you do the design rather than after. And so I think that we always would like to be brought in earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we could also be very helpful. Many times we have to react to what's already been done prior and what's already been defined and decided upon. So, but sometimes you could be brought in very late when the system's already being installed. And
Right.
so
Like a rescue mission.
it's definitely relative.
Interesting.
Well,
You must have
we try to work more relationship based. So we're hoping that they'll think of us as more of the design team.
got it.
Yeah, I think that might just be a thing in general, because that's the way we do business as well. Is you can't think of just solving this problem. You really just got to partner with the client, and the client is a new best friend and a new partner, and you're just there for them. We've been doing a lot of live streaming events because we have fun with all this kind of stuff. And you can't just say, okay, we'll set up your Zoom settings and we'll set up your OBS settings and you're off to it. You have to invest and say, we're going to make this work for you, and we're going to be there. And if you have questions afterwards, we're going to be there for you. We're let's be friends for a long time, because this just with today's remote work, you just have to kind of build these relationships, because you're not walking up to someone and shaking their hands anymore.
I think you bring up a good point too, and a lot of people tend to forget that there really isn't an end, because people are going to be living with this product that we're providing for them, and likely there's going to be tweaks or changes or adjustments, and software is great for that. So that's something that I encourage people to think about: is how can we extend that relationship to make sure that we iterate and make sure that we fine tune and think about how you may want to use your system now. It may be different from what you need in 6 months or a year. And I think certainly we're finding that based on the current situation.
I was going to say, has it changed a lot since COVID? Like, are you going in and reprogramming and rethinking spaces and systems?
Certainly for more soft codecs.
Yeah, I bet.
That's obviously become, and the design of systems has definitely changed. If a system doesn't have Zoom, it's an oddball these days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Zoom's taken over your world.
And one of the things too to think about is that Zoom, I think, has taken over the standard of simple UI. So we have to also be making adjustments there, where people used to say, I want it to work like my iPhone. Now they're saying Zoom's the center of my world. Everybody has been trained to use Zoom. I need the rest of my system to fold into this and make sure that it seems like an extension of the Zoom environment, which can be challenging.
Well, actually, that gives me a question. At Zoomtopia last week or the week before, they announced a bunch of things, and a lot of it has to do, or one of the big announcements was this Zaps thing, which I love because when I lived in New Orleans, Zaps is the local brand of potato chip, and they're amazing. So Zaps potato chip, and there's no one's going to confuse potato chips with video. They're okay with that. But these Zaps are all these other things that we can now work with Zoom. So are you keeping an eye on it, or are you like, I'm all over it? Are you like tearing apart the website trying to figure out all the Zaps?
We're certainly going to be having that on our radar.
We have some Zoom lovers in the chat. It's not just us. The chat loves Zoom. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And also Zoom Rooms have a control component too, which we've worked with, which is nice as well. But I absolutely be looking at where that's one of the things that I think about is that we're stretching what our environment is and what our ecosystem is, and it's not what it used to be, where everything was a standard control system. Now so many different platforms and so many different services support control, and I think that's a great example of it.
Yeah, even the simple things like we use Trello. It's just a management system. It's like a sticky note board, and I think there's going to be a Zap for Trello. So we're going to be in Zoom meetings and say, oh wait, I need to make a to do for it. Oh, it's in here. It's just going to be like right in Zoom if I'm understanding it, which is going to be really cool.
And that's all about APIs, right? That's if everything has an API and you have somebody needs to be the one tying things together, but even once you have something like that, you have to think about what can I do with it and make good decisions too, because just connecting things together is not necessarily going to provide you a solution.
Yeah. And it's funny, everyone gets so excited about APIs and we all try to understand them. But I think the reality is people like me and maybe Kelly, we really don't want to know what they are and how they work. It's just, we trust guys like you. It just, API means that things are going to talk to each other and it's going to do good stuff. But when you guys try to explain to us how APIs work, we're like, oh, you must really love this stuff. But I'm not understanding.
Think about what it used to be like. At least people understand when they hear that it means something. It used to be this foreign language. I mean, I'm so glad that at least now we could have a conversation and people don't think we're from outer space. I mean, we're just, in the atmosphere. We're not on the moon still.
What does it stand for?
It's Application Programming Interface.
Okay.
What really made it stick in my mind is someone pointed out to me. They said when you use Uber, and you see that little map in there. Uber didn't spend $10 billion developing satellites and a map system. It's Google Maps. They're using Google Maps API, and they're paying Google so much money for it. But that's what an API is. Google has the satellites. Google already invented the map thing. Uber just wants people to get into cars. They don't want to invent a map thing. So something APIs, Uber has maps now.
Yep.
Good example. But you're right. Instead of just reinventing the wheel, if somebody's already really good at it, hire Steve to connect it.
That's what we've always done. Thank you.
So I think I have a good wrap-up question, unless you have anything else, Kelly.
Well, we didn't talk about any of the subjects we were going to talk about.
Oh my God, that's right. We had an idea. This podcast was going to be sharing stories of business fails and how to not to fail at business, because don't make the same mistakes we made. But
Yep, except we just failed.
But I didn't know what Steve does, and I wanted to know.
It could always be part two, but I have plenty to share there.
And by the way, I want to apologize to any viewers. I made a mistake setting up the mic, so you might be hearing a little bit of feedback now and then, a little bit of echo and stuff. I'm trying to minimize it, but if you're hearing it, I know that's just part of the stream. It's always a work in progress.
Okay, so what do we do now?
Oh, should we do my wrap-up question, and we'll come back and do the fails thing another day?
Yeah, let's do that, because I do want to spend some time, because I prepared some stuff too that I think might be helpful. Steve, do you mind coming on again?
I'd be glad to. I honestly love talking about programming, but business is a passion of mine. So anytime.
Yeah, and I definitely have stories.
You will come back for part two.
Okay, so
this is how our podcasts go.
my wrap-up question, without divulging any details about clients or anything, has there been any particular job that was something that was really cool? So something, a cool customer or a cool programming thing?
So I can't even count how many. The thing about what I tell people about the AV industry, and what I found personally is that the AV industry has put me in places that I've never dreamed of going to, whether it's a different country, or whether it's a different environment, or whether it's in the CEO office of, a huge Fortune 500 company, or I've been at three of the four major sports associations, which I'm a big sports fan, so I valued that. So I mean, being in these places that nobody else can get access to, I think is just fascinating, and being able to say that you left your mark there was even cooler.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I'm a little low-key jealous. That's some cool stuff. So
what's the coolest place you've been to, David? That work's brought you.
Oh, I have some New Orleans stories. I lived in New Orleans for 10 years, and there's some places in there. Really quick, a rich lawyer took me out to dinner. I'm like, I've been to every fancy restaurant in New Orleans. I'm not going to be impressed by this guy. He takes me to one of the nicest places, and I'm like, okay, this place is nice, but I've been here before. I've eaten here once before. Hey, we go to the back. There's an elevator I didn't know about. We get in the elevator and we go up, and there's a secret private VIP restaurant within the restaurant that I didn't know existed. And when we get there, I'm like, where's the menu? There's no menu. The chef comes out and says, "What do you want?"
That's awesome.
It was incredible. So, okay, a few show announcements. Kelly, I only need to talk to you off stream, because I think we might need to do this more than once a week, because we are booked up with guests for like a month, and I want to have Steve back like immediately to do the stream we were supposed to do. And Tom Capone in chat, we have to have on as a guest. He is a new best friend, and he's a super cool guy, and he has a lot of stories to share with us. And I don't want to have to wait like months and months, so we're gonna have to figure something out.
Well, let's do it. How does your next week look, Steve? Are you traveling a lot?
Definitely not traveling. But I'm sure I can make time. But if we can find a date that works, for sure.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, this is fun. Plus, I want to hear all your stories.
Yeah, I want to hear the stories that we were supposed to hear. So with that, are we ready, Kelly, for our final thoughts?
Yes, I have a good one today.
All right, here we go. My favorite stream feature, zooming in from outer space to the wisest spot on the planet, the mountain of wisdom. And sitting on top of the mountain of wisdom, we have, if I set this up correctly.
Hello. Today, for our daily wrap-up, I have another fun animal science fact, and this one isn't quite as gross as last week's. If you didn't know this already, did you know that cute little otters, the things in the water, they sleep holding hands. How cute is that?
Aww.
That is our final thought of Thursday morning.
Thank you so much, Guru Kelly.
Thank you.